Welcome everyone to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing out there? So another installment of Guy and Taya. Hi Taya.
Hi, Guy.
How's it going?
Great.
Nice. So here we are, another time, more readings. We've had quite a wild ride in the world with all the different things that have happened since the last time you and I have sat and done a reading.
Well, right away, the first thing that comes to mind is money. A lot of money is being talked about. Corruption, where the money's been going, who's been funding what's been happening with taxpayer dollars.
The amount of money the fraudulent money that has been uncovered is crazy.
Let's be open to exposing more what's going on, because something is stinky all over the world. Because look at what we exposed in Canada. I saw this week too that Global Affairs Canada has been supporting the World Economic Forum among many other organizations and musicals and programs and things that are anti-American, anti-Canadian, anti-human in so many ways. So
you're seeing a pushback. I mean, this is what's happening is the deep state, the Dems in the States and all of that, these guys that have been funded for so long are kind of losing it, right? That's part of their infrastructure. And it always goes back to that. Trace the money, follow the money, and you'll find where a lot of the issues are.
They're clearly trying to hide something. You know, that they're trying to stop.
Well, what President Trump has inherited is decades and decades of this issue.
Skeletons in a closet.
Well, and a coup, essentially an insurrection by the deep state element attempting to take over, right? And I mean...
And they almost did.
All over the world.
They almost did.
Man, there's been so many incidences of violence all over Europe. All over. And so it's no surprise that you've got some of these countries that are sort of outliers that are trying to break out of this EU system. But the other thing too is President Trump and this mission to Munich with J.D. Vance, and then President Trump calling out Zelensky after talking to Putin, and then
as a dictator.
Well, yeah, and calling him a dictator and everything, and it just,
because what does that mean for the rest of Europe?
But Europe felt cut out of that deal, right? And then so what the UK Prime Minister tried to do was pledge troops, and the whole world community is like, "What are you talking about?" Right? But like Canada was a part of that group, where they're all like, you see these globalist enclaves that they're trying to sort of rebuff what President Trump is doing and the Americans, right? But it's to no avail. I mean, this is what I've been seeing for a while. Their system is slowly collapsing, but they are not giving in. This is so apparent, and the push is on. And you do have these countries like, you know, all of those countries in like Eastern Europe that are close enough to Ukraine and stuff that kind of know what the score is. I mean, what about Romania?
Yep.
It's the same kind of deal, right? Yeah. They are sick of it, like what the president of Hungary talks about.
Yes.
So it's good. It's good things. These are good things.
A big player, a big advocate for trying to oust the corruption in the world.
Yeah.
For a long time, they would not support Soros, and they wouldn't let him in the country, even though he is.
Well, I think it goes back to
descent.
It goes back to even 2011, 2012, like the Arab Spring and the Syrian war and all of the refugees that were coming up. He was one of the only ones that said no,
right,
and blocked. But that's like the first point that a lot of them come into Europe through is countries like Hungary, right?
Yeah.
It's insane for these European leaders to think in any other way but peace. And it's insane for these leaders to think in any other way but to protect their own people. But they're not. So it has to register within people, right? But the divides are so thick. I mean, we were talking last time about the Trump derangement syndrome in Canada, right? But all over the world. I mean, people are starting to get it though. It's just going to take time, and it does have to extend outside of politics, I think, too, right? But I don't know.
Well, like I was going to say, it's been a month that Trump has been in power and not one child has been sniffed. So, okay, there is some good coming about, and people need to start looking at the changes, the difference that, people are starting to feel a little bit more empowered, that they are starting to feel a little bit safer in their own backyard. Because, again, look what's happening in Europe. They're not talking about how many people are getting hurt.
Well, freedom of speech, right?
And
they're
that's
associating.
alarming too. You're not allowed to talk about what's happening. Like, that is definitely communistic. And the fact that people
Totalitarian.
don't see that they're ushering in that next wave, that history is going to be repeating itself if we're not very careful.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. I know,
Not
this
okay,
is this is what I mean.
That's
but
why we're here, and I'm grateful to be able to sit here and talk.
yeah. Well, I mean, this is what
the country that used to be
honest to God, though,
free.
Before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after, that's what the battle was. That's what the fight was. That's what the digital fight was for this space and freedom of speech. And it worked, but we're not done. We're not through it in by no means. Like I was saying in the last one, the D class of all the different files and stuff is really important. And getting through to people, the awakening process is still here, and we are taking part in it, and it's awesome. And so
awesome.
It is awesome. So we're going to do our usual. We're going to do a little check-in, right? Check in on the world, check in on the human family, and see where things are at, what's going on with this deep state situation, and what else were we going to look at?
Okay, well, now that all these... Step one.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what's going to come up next? What are we, going to see actually being passed? What are we,
Are they going to get through some of them, I guess, right?
Right. It's all great that we're talking about these things that started the dialogue, but, okay, where's the action? It's just words right now. What's the next action? What's the follow-up? Maybe let's look at that.
Okay.
What are the next actions? What do we see coming up
next?
Maybe we can even talk about the plane crashes.
Oh yeah, the plane crashes.
There has been close to 10 major plane crashes in the first month of the year.
Yeah, it's been crazy. This last one is crazy.
The one that we just had in Toronto was... The
amount of them is startling.
Right. Something is fishy. It's a little suspicious to me. And...
Well, when we were talking about, before we started rolling the cameras and everything, when we were talking about that, what I thought about, because it's funny, like Trump gets in, starts signing all these executive orders to get rid of DEI.
Yeah.
And then all of these DEI related or seemingly DEI related incidences start to happen.
Yeah.
But I thought it's kind of interesting. It's sort of like what happens when somebody is like addicted. It's like a drug addiction. And you can sort of function for so long, and then you crash. And I think that's what's happening. And it's been happening for the last year all over the world. Like there was that huge incident with a naval ship in New Zealand with the woke Navy down there. And it's a DEI thing, right? And it's the same thing like with this Delta flight. It's an unmanned flight potentially, meaning there were no men on this flight. And that's the nature of the DEI, right? Is to not just
it's
give
division.
No, it's not. Yes, it is division, but it's not just to give opportunity to minorities. It's to give opportunity to women, and often women of minorities. Okay,
and creating this division.
But it's not based on merit.
No.
And with something like that, and that's what President Trump was talking about, right? But it's a weird thing. It's
when you hold somebody's life in your hand, based on merit, not because of where you were born or what culture you're a part of or any of that. And that's what's concerning, is that we were putting our eggs into a basket that was just insane. Instead of hiring somebody because they're qualified.
this
It's a lot.
co-opting, this social engineering and this co-opting of the culture, right? This is what we're dealing with. But yeah, that's what I think that all the plane crashes are in a lot of ways. It's like the high of the DEI has come crashing down,
All I know is
right?
it's awfully
Literally.
suspicious right now.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, let's do our little read and then we'll look into some of that stuff towards the end. And if there's something else that comes up,
We'll talk about it.
we will look into it for sure.
Yeah.
So, wow, interesting, right? So, at the beginning, I didn't introduce you very well. And I didn't describe what you're doing and what's going on the internet. But for people that are new and don't know, we met a while ago, Taya and her husband, actually. And we became really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And Taya has a YouTube channel called Mug de Jour, right?
Yes.
Mug de Jour. So you can check her out on that. And there will be probably a link left somewhere in the comments or something. But yeah, go check that out when you're done this video. And yeah, let's get into this. Okay, so Ace of Cups. So for past, present, future. And then, so in the present moment, we've got the Ace of Cups reversed, right? And this is the spiritual impulse or the guidance, and this is the material world. This is what the foundations of the issue or the question are, right? Always try to describe the cards as best as I can. Sometimes I forget to. Okay, so yeah, Ace of Cups. How do you see that?
So when it's right side up is we're beginning a new emotional journey. We're beginning to get in touch with ourselves again and start out. Very much when I see that card, it comes after a card like the Tower or the Ten of Swords, because we've been through something and we got to clear out our lives. And so we're emptying our cups, so to speak. So when I see the Ace of Cups, okay, new journey, new start. What I think has happened is the world we filled our cups with the wrong drink, with the wrong liquid. We overfilled. And so now we got to empty it. And so that's why it's upside down. It's like, okay, we went down one emotional path. Now we got to go down another one. And so when I see it like that, okay, we got to start this one over again. So in the past here, we were starting over. When I see this card, oh yeah, change, new, but yes, okay,
With the
look
Fool?
before you leap.
With the Fool?
Yes.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, yeah, we're starting again, but I'm looking at this card and I'm seeing, okay, we're spilling out what we filled up our cup with. And look what's on the other end. What we're spilling out is kind of what we were just. Well, when I see the Empress, this is the ultimate female.
It's like
This
that
is-
woke feminism.
Yeah, so now we have to dump out this version of
trans-
feminism, this version of what we thought female was. I mean, let's be real. For the last few years, nobody on the woke crowd could identify what a woman actually was.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is what this is representative of, is that.
Well, yeah, and that's like that, and like the bill for no men in women's sports, that's pretty big. Women fought hard for certain areas, and sports was one of them, regardless of feminism or not.
When we saw that picture of Donald Trump surrounded by all those women, by all those girls,
True.
that was so wholesome.
Yeah.
That
true.
was definitely
Well, I mean, the
more
media,
feminist than I've seen in years.
the media has painted him as being really misogynistic, and that's actually.
Well, they painted him as being anti-black too.
And he was celebrating Black History Month. Yeah, I can see why you're picking that up, right? It's like a shift. I mean, it does take it's like a jolt in the heart. Like it takes time for people to sort of readjust, right? Like, especially like when your cup has been full for so long, like with this. The magician though too, right, is like misinformed or lies, right? This is like a bad magician, someone pulling the wool
Like
over their eyes, right?
Parlor trick, like a.
But see too, it's also growth and the energetic circumstance of what the Empress represents, right? The creative energies, right? Not just the feminine. And the whole trip of like the Great Reset and the deindustrialization, is also a part of that division and attacking the family and attacking men and attacking women.
And their basic roles.
That's part of it, right? Yeah.
One is a nurturer, one is a provider, one is this, one is that. And why are we pushing ourselves to be all of them?
Look at this though, eh? The 4 major arcanas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's, yeah, what you're saying is exactly what.
See, and
what
then I'm not a fan of this card when I see this guy here.
Why?
Well, because whenever I see him right side up, I'm wondering, okay, what's his intention? Is he here to help or is he here to hurt? You know, what is this? What's going on? So there's a little suspicion about what's going to be given to us in the future. You know, like it's not going to be straightforward. And you have to learn to trust yourself, your intuition. Because when you see the swords, it's with words, right?
Thoughts and mind.
Yes, and you have to apply your own common sense, your own thinking to a situation, and it's going to require strength. And I was just talking about this, how this card has been showing up for me because of the lion, and it's like we're going to be needing to be strong in the next little bit because we're just getting started.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it's so true, isn't it?
Because I thought it was over, that, you know, we got to this stage and then nope. Okay,
not even close.
Here we are for round 2.
Well, yep, round 22.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah, that strength card is definitely empowerment, right? So it's like, yeah, that's, you know, swords are the mind and the cups are the heart, right? So it's like finding the unity between the heart and the mind. So clearing out the lies that will enable a person to be more self-empowered and to be able to determine what is truth. Because when this card is reversed, the 7 of Swords, that actually means, or that could be read like seeing through lies or seeing through a deception. Because this is, well, what is that guy doing, right? This is a jousting match that this picture is showing. And he's a squire. So the squire would be tasked at retrieving the knight's sword when it came time for the tournament. Okay. But what he's doing is he's stealing the swords. He's gathering more swords than he needs, right? It's also like a King Arthur thing. King Arthur had to go and find a sword, and this is where he pulled out the sword from the stone. Right? There's all of these different things wrapped up in that. So what is this guy doing? Right?
Yeah.
We're associating it like he's robbing it or there's deception.
Possibly.
Yeah. But that deception is being turned over. So seeing through the deception, being empowered to see through deception.
Exactly. So we got to have strength to keep digging.
That's where we're heading, right? Yeah. But yet the lies need to be exposed. So people, and this is what I think what you were seeing here with the Fool is like, all of us had to be brought to the edge of that precipice where he's jumping, right? Yeah. Where we had to let go.
Yes.
We had to let go of a lot of notions, a lot of ideas that we had about the world. Right? Because some of the things, like the old adage, you know, I don't know where it comes from right now, but the idea like your thoughts aren't your own, you know, like you're being controlled through your thoughts, figuratively. But this is what we're talking about, is the reclaiming of our sovereignty as humans and not allowing these bad actors to get away with it, I guess is a thing. But we're being prepared, right? This is kind of cool. This is actually kind of a good sign, this strength card, right? Because regardless of what is being thrown at us now, and this is what I've been picking up, is there's so many of us now in varying levels of awareness that they have to be really smart to pull some of this stuff.
Yes.
My fear, or what I worry about, is that the sleepers are still there, right? But this is what this is talking about, is sort of getting people used to the idea that you've been lied to. And you're perpetuating those lies. Your thoughts aren't your own. And it has to be shown like very simply, like there's certain things like people's pocketbooks will always show the way. Same thing like your children. You mess with somebody's livelihood or their family, and wow,
Luck.
right? And that's what's happening. That's totally what's happening. So all that Doge stuff, it's awesome, right?
Yeah. The world is
We
definitely
needed it.
waking up
Yeah.
and seeing, hey, this has needed to come out.
So,
But we're all waiting to see how much more corruption there actually is, you know?
mhm.
And him and Elon Musk saying how they're gonna maybe live stream going into Fort Knox.
What we keep picking up is that no, things are moving in a good way. We also have to take charge of our worlds a little bit more and not allow these events and these things to steer our worldview, because that's what social media is sort of that's its intent, was to disrupt people's worldview and to engineer it and to manipulate it. Okay.
Fear-based as opposed to love-based, like what we were talking about.
Yep.
And, again, that's what I see here is like, okay, it's not turn love upside down, like that family dynamic. And
well, yeah, and keep us at odds, right? Like this, like at
Division.
reversed is just at odds, can't see
the other person's perspective.
At
They're
all.
not even willing to.
Yeah. And that's what they wanted, right? So I don't know. From a spiritual perspective, though, what we're getting is that kind of friction in society is what actually pushes us to sort of move beyond it. Yes, we might get trapped for a period of time, but it's there for our spiritual advancement, because somehow men and women have to restructure their relationship patterning. But that's, we've seen this in our lifetime, and we were talking about it earlier, the men and women, men becoming more like women and women becoming more like men, and not finding necessarily a balance, right? But yet that it does need to happen, right? So that we don't keep perpetuating the ills of the past, right? Because freedom does mean people being free, but
even
yet
stopping the cycle of repeat.
Yes, and this cycle of abuse and everything that comes with that, right? That's what's happening. But see, people that like the woke people that are very progressive or like on the lefty side, and the sleepers, they have a hard time seeing some of this stuff, right? Because of worldview, right?
Cognitive dissonance.
Yes, this is actually what this is talking about a little bit.
And I get it. I was there too. When I first woke up to the reality that I was in, I didn't want to believe half the stuff we're talking about is true. But now I don't believe it. I know it because of the countless amount of proof that keeps coming out in support of the fact that there is so much wrong.
Yes.
And the fact that so many people are aware to it now.
Well, it's like I was saying about Europe. It's so violent, and they're purposely have made it so, and the people are having a hard time seeing it, like to actually accept that yes, this is on purpose, because there's been all of these labels and this part of the psyop. Like you start talking about this stuff, you get labeled being a racist or the great replacement, conspiracy theorist and all this stuff, right? But this is what this is talking about. It's like becoming painfully obvious. Like you have to see it, right? Cognitive dissonance is a thing still, like big time, right?
Very much.
Little continuation. And we've got that 4 of Cups there, right? So it's like a hurry up and wait kind of scenario. Right?
Thanks, Guy.
But that card is also a sign of meditation and
study
and being aware. Yeah, like because this guy, the hand of God is offering him what he's got his focus on, but he misses it. He's too focused on the material world, right? So that's a part of it. There's so much more to the picture. Like when we start talking about some of the tough social issues, right? Like around men and women or all that stuff, right? That's one way to kind of navigate it, is to recognize that yes, there's always so much more, right? Like it's not, yeah, there's just layers to it, right? And some of the deeper questions you're not going to get answers right away, right?
What we were talking about previously, how we've had to empty our cups and now we have to fill them back up again. We have to go study. We have to go into hermit mode. So right now, we got to quiet the outside world, turn inwards and say, okay, what was I actually holding up as truth? Why was I defending this truth? It wasn't real.
Mhm.
And now, what is reality? And when I see this card right side up, it's like you just have to stand your ground and defend yourself. And when it's reversed, okay, now you got to let down the fight. You don't need to defend yourself. Everybody's been in defense mode, defending their beliefs, defending their ideals, defending their position, whatever it is.
See, this card here, this goes to what we were talking about in the other reading, like of being led to fight amongst each other, led to compete in a way that we're not aware of. Like, what are we competing for?
Exactly.
What are we fighting for, right? And that's a question that needs to be asked, right? Like I always talk about, it's like, it's not what you're fighting against, it's what you're fighting for.
Right.
Like, be wary of what you're fighting, and you will become what you are fighting.
Yes.
So, but often when people get caught up in this kind of thing, you lose sight of what the aim is, what was the objective, right?
Exactly this. And that's why it's good to focus. Are we focusing too much on the things we want, on the money, like we were just talking about? Okay, it's okay to want money, but what do you want to do with the money? That's the main point.
Right. So that's part of it. That's what it actually is trying to show us, is where's our focus, right?
Right.
That's a big one. Okay, so what are we going to look at for the last one? What do you want to see into?
Okay, so what's the next step in the action?
What's the next? What do we expect next?
Yes, what do we expect next? Like, because there's a lot of words that have been thrown around. There's a lot of executive orders. There's a lot of talk, a lot of speculation, even with the Epstein files and the Diddy files. Yes, we're talking about it, that it's going to be coming out, but where's the action? What's next? Yeah, it's just bizarre, all those gifts that are being given. You know, the gold pager, this giant chainsaw. Like, I don't know. It's a little funny.
Chainsaw's funny.
Mm-hmm.
What was the golden pager? Is that the Ashley St. Clair?
Israel.
Oh.
It was given to Trump. It's in this giant clamshell. Did you not see the...
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah, go have a look at
this. A golden pager.
It's a golden pager. Yes, it is. It's so...
Are you serious?
Extravagant, yes.
What, the government gave it to him?
Yes. When he had the meeting with Israel about making the Gaza Strip the new Mayan Riviera.
Funny, man. It's wow.
Yes,
really?
Everything is wow.
That's wild.
We live in an opulent society.
Well, but you know what the pager reference is about?
No.
I think it's like was October of last year or somewhere. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, somehow hacked into 4,000 pagers that the Hamas people were using worldwide. And they blew them up simultaneously in their pockets.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did this happen?
I think it was last year.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but it was like, oh my God, welcome to the 21st century.
No doubt.
Right.
This is
and
like
nobody,
some Mission Impossible stuff.
As far as I know, nobody died, but there was a lot of maimed people, right?
Wow.
But
that's wild.
Yeah. So that's what I think. That's
Interesting
what I think the pagers of. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I knew you'd know if anybody did, but I just thought it was really opulent.
Well, like who uses a pager?
No, exactly.
Who uses a pager?
What is that? There's got to be definitely
because it's a low network system that they could hack into, and that's what these Hamas guys did. Was they would hack into like a lower bandwidth, and they think that they actually were able to get into the devices before they were shipped. Like, it's just this big, it's just like a
That's-
military
yeah,
operation
this is
that's
just-
like
this
right
is
out of a movie,
crazier
right?
out of yes, exactly. This is like a movie.
So nuts. Okay. Well, peace is going to be a little difficult.
Whoa.
I mean, what we were seeing with Trump's efforts to get peace accords going between Ukraine and Russia was a pushback in the European community, and then them wanting to send more troops and all this stuff, right? But just this idea of like that they don't want peace, right? It's just crazy. I addressed this in my last video. I talked about how in the Middle East it's really difficult to strike peace because of there's a resistance, and there's a desire for blood. There is a desire for revenge, and there's this ethos of eye for an eye.
So you see more fighting.
Well,
See there.
this one I see sort of like whatever attempt at peace is going to be thwarted, or it's going to take a bit more time. But this is also the Doge finding all of the fraud, the trillions and trillions of dollars of fraud, right? See, that ruins their plans. The deep state, the guys that are there, they don't know how to make heads or tails of it, and they're losing it. These people are losing their minds, man.
I think
And
it's been that way for a little bit.
Well, it's pretty obvious
and
because they're
now it's
caught.
become obvious for a lot
Yeah.
of people who have no clue what's going on. So
And Trump, I mean, was even talking about this. I was saying this too, is it's going to take 2 years. It's going to take 2 years to reorder the economic system, because it is in such it's in a dire circumstance, right? And so close, like a razor hair close to being locked into that kind of system, that social credit, digital currency credit thing. And so maybe that is part of it. They are. I don't know if Trump is into a digital currency though. He doesn't.
time will tell.
Doesn't seem. I know. Time will tell. But the thing is, with the laws around, yeah, man, all of the international laws and all of the agreements are all being shifted right now. It's like a huge fundamental shift. Like he has thrown a total monkey wrench into their program. Like, and they knew it. Like the World Economic Forum.
They admitted it. Did
they
you
were
see that?
talking about it 2 years before he got into office.
And now they're talking about how he did put a wrench in their plan, that he won. For lack of better words, that's what they've said.
Well, sort of, yeah. They're attempting to thwart his plans, though. And it requires the people in all of these different countries, just like what happened in the United States, to get the right people into power to suss it out. And I don't know if it's going to happen. There's not enough people. And that's not how it's going to happen. It's got to come through steps of disclosure and things being brought to their attention, and the right people taking, like certain people have to take the hit for other people. Like there's political prisoners right now that are taking a hit for people for this, right? It has to happen, but the people have to find other means, right? And that's, instead of waiting for this globalist cult, this death cult to spring another pandemic or some kind of circumstance, got to put them on the run, right? So that's I think what we're going to see is people's responses to this, like in Europe and stuff, is going to change. There's going to be a shift. There has to be, right? But money is on the agenda. The amount of money and the waste of money, and how they have no money, and what are we going to do about this money, and money. And it's always been like that. Well,
but now more than ever, because again, like you want to give people money, but then there's this deficit. Is there actually money? Is there gold in Fort Knox, or, is that just made up? Like there's all kinds of layers of things that I think we're just beginning to uncover.
Nazi gold.
Well, and
where's
that
the
too,
Nazi gold?
Right? Like, it's just.
in Elon's safe at the starbase.
But who knows what's going on with Elon Musk? Because again, for so long he was this bad guy. He was the champion of the dark side, and then now what? He switched sides, like because he's got a change of heart, a change of consciousness. I don't.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
That interview,
but
he talked about that a little bit. He has brought it out, and I think the thing that he's been clear about is that what woke him up was the trans agenda. There was actually a couple of things. It was the New World Order, these globalists, this billionaires club trying to push for this AI to control humanity, and the transhumanist agenda messing with kids, and his own child being messed with. And that's what he said, right? So have to take it for face value. And I mean, there has to be, redemption with these people, right?
So even with seeing this, like how this is, their plan might not be going how it was. So now maybe they're going to push on drugs, like because the money situation, the credit score, okay, if people are, what happened during the pandemic? The alcohol was still available. The weed was still available.
Well, see, that's what this maybe is saying, is that all of this exposure, because we did ask about the exposure, right?
Like what's next?
Is showing the manipulation.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to bring peace to people. It's going to cause people to
go more into it, do you think?
Well, to
go more into addiction, to go more into
No.
indulgence.
I just keep seeing that there's still a group there that is not going along with it, and they're going to be divided. And this card is a card of division. Yeah, yes. This duality.
All of it, yeah.
But when this is reversed, it's not peaceful. It's a card of, it's not necessarily warring, because really this card is an interesting one because it represents how to deal with fear.
We're talking switching from a fear-based to a love-based mentality.
So when it's reversed, it's like you're fearful.
Right.
So there's this fear that, like we were saying, like, is Elon Musk really on side with Trump, or is he just going to pull the wool over his eyes? That's the other thing. AOC and all the progressives and Bernie Sanders and them talking about an oligarchy. Meanwhile, they're run by an oligarchy like George Soros and these guys, right? Yes. But this is the fear. Like, are they going to do it again? Like that Baphomet costume that he wore at that gala.
Yeah, for Halloween.
Right? Like
that was something else.
But that's what this is talking about, right? I think is, fear. It's sort of like this thing with the classification, the D class. Like, is it just going to be the same thing again? Right? Because we've been through that before, right? And I don't think so. I think we are in it is a different time. It's just the process. Like, I mean, Trump is spoiling us right now with all of the rapid fire actions that he's taking. Because that's not necessarily how government and everything works, right? Like, it usually takes time. I don't know why. But Patience. It does, right?
Yeah.
It's funny, these two cards were from the last one, right? So this is kind of closing off the reading in the sense of where we started, because it's sort of saying like we were prepared for this, which we know, right? Yes. But
I look at this like we have to take a leap of faith.
Yeah.
We're starting over again. We got to take a leap of faith. And it is, sometimes you got to look to your conspiracy theorist friends. Sometimes you got to look to your wizard friends, to the bit
wisdom.
Of wisdom.
Looking for advice.
It's interesting. Yeah. These cards coming up again.
I was getting right when Trump got voted in, when the vote was clear and he was sworn in as president, it was still like beginning of December. Or even November. But I was getting that the deep state know this, and they were like doubling back and sort of making plans for when he was in, and that they were going to kibosh and like try to prevent a lot of this stuff. And some of these things weren't going to be activated until he was well into office. And that's actually, I think, what this is saying. Because this is like the
just 2-year mark, right? So
2 years, 2 months.
Halfway in.
Because we're first month, right?
Yeah.
And so, right, deception.
Yeah.
That's, so there might.
Oh, well, then
and that's kind of what we were, that's kind of what we were seeing is like a concentrated effort to like prevent some of this stuff, right? So, and I think that's what we're going to see. Like, I was also picking up information coming out about how intentional some of this stuff is. And that might be something too in Europe, or like some of these places where the attacks are bad, right? That some of it was intentional, that they were let in
just
for that
like
purpose, or
plane crashes.
I'm just seeing a pushback, and get ready. Trump is so used to winning right now, but there's going to be some pushback, right? And
it's too good to be true.
And like you were asking about like some of these executive orders, they have to be, some of them are legal issues, right? Like they can't be just passed through, right? So that's also some of it. I think this thing with the DEI, this is one of their hills that they're willing to die on, actually. And this thing with the DEI, that's going to be central for a while, right? And the expenditure of money, and where's the money going, and what are we going to do when we don't have this, we're not being paid,
when the government isn't funding my hormones.
And we can't use TikTok because TikTok might not come back. TikTok might get, something might happen. They want to buy it, right? But it might not. The Chinese might not go along with it, but it seems like they might. It is kind of like these guys are kind of going along with Trump, but the administration has to stay in for a while, right?
It's just going to be interesting next couple of months, just to see what executive orders go through.
Well, and that task force,
because of, like we said, legal issues, or
the D-class task force starts in March, right?
That's exactly what I'm looking forward to.
That's good.
Just to see the amount of disclosure. And again, what you said, it's very telling what direction we're going in. Is this actually happening? Or are we up for the same old again? Exactly.
And I think we got to keep on that vibration, right? It's just, in other parts of the world where it's not the United States, and, sort of holding that line, I guess, as it were. But, the energetic and spiritual connection is definitely, to me, the most important in what we address, right? When we're dealing with all of this stuff, right? And that's what we're always being guided towards. So stay tuned and hold on. Okay, everybody. So take care out there. I hope you enjoyed. So make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.